The DeLorean flashing through those signature twin fire trails, the iconic clock tower, frozen at the time, 10:04 p.m., a teenager with a guitar big enough to swallow him whole. These indelible images didn't just belong to a film, they belonged to an era. It was a time when theaters ran movies for entire seasons, when families crowded into multiplexes that smelled of popcorn and celluloid. It was an era when adventure meant practical effects, rubber smoke machines, and actors dangling from real scaffolding. Back to the Future looked effortless on screen. Time travel, skateboards, lightning storms, but behind those frames lived danger, heartbreak, near disaster, and choices that shaped an entire generation of storytelling long before digital shortcuts existed. These are 20 facts about Back to the Future that reveal what really happened underneath that glowing clock tower. Fact number 1. Michael J. Fox filmed the entire movie on borrowed time, literally. He was already locked into a successful sitcom, filming from the afternoon well into the evening. Back when productions didn't have the strict turnaround rules that exist today, when working actors were expected to endure, his new schedule became a ritual of pure exhaustion. He went from the sitcom set from daylight until after sunset, straight into a waiting car that drove him across town to the film set. He filmed until dawn, slept maybe 3 hours, and then did it all again. For months, he lived in a state of near sleepwalking, holding coffee in one hand and a skateboard in the other. What audiences saw as bright, boundless teenage energy was, in reality, held together by pure adrenaline. Fact number 2. The original Marty wasn't the one we all remember. It wasn't Fox at all. Eric Stoltz had filmed for weeks, full costume, full scenes, entire sequences, shot like film was cheap even when it wasn't. Back then, an actor's intensity often impressed the crew, and Stoltz certainly brought that. But his Marty was dark, brooding, almost existential. It wasn't the loose, nimble presence the script and the director needed. You can still see glimpses of him in footage that sat untouched for decades, flying through a cafeteria table or leaning into Doc's wild theories. Then one night, the directors made the call. Stoltz was out. A whole film's worth of work vanished overnight, replaced by a kid who barely slept but made everything feel like lightning on screen. Fact number 3. The town square everyone remembers, anchored by the beautiful clock tower, was actually recycled. Back when studio sets lived forever and budgets favored reinvention over reconstruction, the set had been used in black and white films, westerns, and even a few sitcoms. For Back to the Future, crew members refaced storefronts by hand. They layered plaster, neon paint, and wooden fascia until the place looked exactly like 1955. The clock tower, however, was entirely new. It was built specifically to dominate the skyline of a backlot that had seen decades of stories unfold. In older photos stored in studio basements, you can still see workers painting each brick by hand in the sweltering California heat. Fact number 4. Doc Brown's wild, shock-white hair wasn't meant to be static, and even a bit of fabric softener to make his hair stand up, but the mixture hardened under the hot studio lights, which were common back then, before modern cooling systems became the norm. During long takes, the makeup team had to physically pry the hair loose with combs so it wouldn't crack. Christopher Lloyd endured it silently, a professional to the end. By the third week, he joked to crew members that his hair had become a fourth-dimensional object. It existed, but only barely, in this universe. Fact number 5. Crispin Glover's deeply quirky George McFly, which caused some tension on set. Back when actors were sometimes expected to just hit their marks and say their lines, Glover pulled mannerisms from silent film stars, a dash of mime technique, and a few behavioral tics he literally dreamed up at 3 a.m. during the shoot. His intensity, though brilliant, clashed with production norms of the era. On set, he questioned lines, motivations, and even lens choices. There were days when Lloyd and Fox avoided him, unsure what version of George they'd get. But the result was a character audiences would remember for decades, built from pure, unbridled experiment. Fact number 6. The iconic shot of Marty playing Johnny B. Goode at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance almost didn't happen. Back when cheating the camera felt like insulting the audience, Fox learned the fingering for real. Not the simplified, fake strumming modern productions rely on, but the exact chord shapes. There's archival rehearsal footage of Fox standing alone with a guitar that dwarfed him, running the solo until his fingers bled. The audio was dubbed later, of course, But the performance, the sweat, the breathing, the physical grind, that's all Fox. He endured real physical pain to ensure the authenticity of a moment everyone who saw the film remembers. Fact number 7. Lea Thompson had to play two radically different versions of Lorraine in the same film, the shy teenager and the bold future mother, and the contrast took a serious toll. Back when productions weren't built around actor well-being, she had to switch personalities in the same day, often within hours, which pushed her emotional energy to the edge. The makeup chair became her only quiet place. Old behind-the-scenes photos show her sitting still under hot bulbs, while artists layered foundation thick enough to pass for 1950s film stock. For Thompson, this emotional whiplash became a private part of the performance that audiences never saw, but felt. Fact number 8. The skateboard scenes look effortless, as if Fox was born on 4 wheels, but in reality, he barely knew how to ride. Back then, before modern stunt coaching was standard, actors trained on parking lot asphalt behind the studio, literally eating pavement until they got the basics. The first time Fox tried a moving car tow, he nearly slammed into a wall because he didn't know how to bail properly. Crew members dropped mattresses behind obstacles just in case. They weren't always fast enough. A scraped elbow here, a bruised hip there. It built the kind of physical confidence modern productions would simply simulate with digital doubles. Back in this era, falling was just part of the job. Fact number 9. The DeLorean itself was a nightmare. It was heavy, unreliable, and covered in brittle stainless steel panels that dented if you breathed on them wrong. Back when practical props ruled, these problems were a constant issue. On humid mornings, the distinctive gull-wing doors refused to open. On cold nights, the wiring would short. During one chase shoot, the engine overheated so badly it emitted a sulfur smell that hung over the backlot like fog. Crew members manually pushed it into place more times than they actually drove it. Yet on camera, with sparks flying and lights glowing, it became a time machine powerful enough to shape an entire generation's imagination. Fact number 10. The lightning strike sequence, the climactic scene everyone remembers, was so complex it nearly shut down production. This was long before CGI made electrical storms easy. An electrical storm in this era meant layers of light rigs, metallic dust, explosive charges, and precisely timed cues. Actors stood near real arcs of electricity created by old induction coils salvaged from earlier sci-fi productions. Fox jumped back instinctively during the first test because the heat hit him unexpectedly. Christopher Lloyd stayed perfectly still. Years of stage work had trained him to ignore danger if the shot needed him to. Watching the raw footage, the fear you see in Marty's eyes is only partly acting. Fact number 11. The manure truck gag was more dangerous than funny. The substance wasn't actual manure, but a heavy wet compound made to look like it. When the truck dumped its load, the force nearly crushed the stunt performer inside the car because the weight settled too quickly. Back before modern safety standards, for a moment, a dozen crew members froze, unsure if he could breathe. When he emerged, coughing and totally soaked, everyone laughed from sheer relief. Those were the days when comedy sometimes meant bruises you carried home, and the audience would never know the cost. Fact number 12. The real danger that could have shut down the film came from an idea for the hoverboard. Not in the sequels, but here, during early brainstorming. Producers toyed with the idea of rigging Fox on wires that ran through the backlot asphalt, pulled by winches older than the cast itself. Back then, ambition sometimes outran safety by entire decades. Test runs went badly. One stunt performer slammed into a lamppost hard enough to twist the metal. The idea was instantly scrapped, but the test footage remained hidden for years, a terrifying proof of how close the production came to a major disaster. Fact number 13. During the diner scene where Biff Tannen, played by Thomas Wilson, towers over Marty, the tension wasn't just acting. Wilson was gentle off set, but towering in the set lighting. Fox, running on his usual exhaustion, misjudged a blocking mark and stepped too close to Wilson. Wilson's fist swung past his head by literally 1 inch. Crew members gasped. There's no digital trickery hiding the proximity. It was a practical shot, captured when films were precise down to the inch. Afterward, Wilson immediately brought Fox a soda and apologized, even though he had hit nothing but air. Fact number 14. The Enchantment Under the Sea dance, a scene of such dreamy, nostalgic warmth, wasn't a single cohesive shoot. It took weeks, and the conditions bordered on surreal. Back when air-conditioned sets were the exception, not the norm, The lights baked the room to temperatures that softened the vinyl tiles on the floor. Extras wilted. Sweat ran down Fox's back so heavily his shirt had to be dried with hair dryers between takes. Staying alert under that heat required constant water breaks. The saxophone player fainted twice. The magic you see on screen was built from discomfort that would be unthinkable today. Fact number 15. A quiet romantic chaos unfolded during the production that added a charge to their scenes. Michael J. Fox had a long-term relationship at the time, but the intensity of filming blurred lines. The on-screen chemistry between Fox and Leah Thompson wasn't just design. Their playful teasing, the long hours of rehearsals, and youthful momentum sparked rumors that spread through the crew. No public scandal grew from it, but the electricity was palpable. In old crew interviews, a few admit it added an unspoken connection to every scene they shared. It was a spark that lived only during production, fading as soon as filming wrapped. Fact number 16. Christopher Lloyd carried a significant private heartbreak during shooting that added to Doc Brown's frantic energy. Back when film sets were sealed worlds where personal life seeped quietly into performance, Lloyd would withdraw to quiet corners of the lot between long takes. He was sorting through the final stages of a dissolving marriage. His tremor, his frantic energy, his sense of a man always on the edge of losing everything. Some of that came from a real place. Watching the raw dailies, there are moments where Doc Brown looks less like a mad scientist and more like someone running from a life falling apart just off camera. The emotional truth was right there on the screen for those who knew the backstory. Fact number 17. Fox nearly passed out during the close-up hanging scene where Biff's gang nearly lynches Marty. Back before modern stunt protocols required fail-safes and rehearsals under medical supervision, the noose wasn't technically tight. However, the harness pulling his torso upward cut his air supply more than intended. After just a few seconds suspended, Fox's vision began to blur. A quick-thinking stuntman yelled to drop him, and the team lowered him fast. When Fox stood up, dizzy but steady, he insisted on continuing. In raw takes, his voice has a rasp not heard anywhere else in the film, the leftover adrenaline and struggle making the final cut. Fact number 18. The clock tower climb was more hazardous than anyone advertised, and Christopher Lloyd performed more of it than insurance teams preferred. Back when actors took more physical risks than they would be allowed to today, the wooden facade was slick because of a nightly fog that consistently rolled through the backlot. During one ascent, Lloyd's foot slipped. For a terrifying heartbeat, he dangled from a beam 30 feet above the ground. Crew members froze. Then he swung back into place and finished the take. The fear in his voice minutes later, during the famous "Great Scott" line, wasn't scripted. It carried that leftover, heart-pounding adrenaline. Fact number 19. A near-fatal accident occurred during a night sequence involving the DeLorean that was immediately erased from the public record. Back when film sets still felt like the Wild West of filmmaking, the car was supposed to speed down a narrow lane lit by old halogen rigs. But one rig collapsed unexpectedly, sending a heavy metal frame crashing inches behind the vehicle. Sparks exploded like miniature fireworks. The driver swerved so sharply the wheels scraped the curb. Had the frame fallen a second earlier, it would have hit the windshield head-on. The footage was destroyed immediately. Too close, too real. Only crew memories remain of this almost disaster. Fact number 20. One of the deepest secrets of the entire production sat inside a simple prop letter. During filming, Fox wrote a private, personal message on the folded paper Marty hands to Doc, the letter warning him about his future. It wasn't in the script, and it wasn't meant for the audience. It was a heartfelt note thanking Christopher Lloyd for being a stabilizing force during those months when Fox barely slept, and his life felt like pure chaos. Lloyd didn't read it until filming ended. The letter stayed in his possession for decades, tucked away in a drawer. A small, private exchange between two actors who built a friendship in the glow of a film that would shape generations. A quiet confirmation that they survived the chaos together. The production of Back to the Future was chaos, wrapped in genuine nostalgia. It was a film shot in the last era when practical effects still ruled, when backlots smelled of hot paint and electrical cords, when stories were built by hand before digital tools softened the danger. Back to the Future didn't just entertain, it created a shared cultural moment at a time when movies lingered in theaters long enough to become rituals. Its lightning storms, guitar solos, and time loops became part of a collective memory shaped by sweat, near misses, and creative risks that would be utterly unthinkable today. For those who sat in packed theaters in 1985, watching the DeLorean tear across the screen, the magic never faded. And maybe that's why it still sparks every time the clock hits 10:04.